Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today.
Hey guys, Professor Presbury back with another episode of Hey Professor, show us about everything you wanted to know about revenue cycle management, healthcare management, business management. Your professor, Jerome H. Presbury, here at the HFMA Conference, my first one, the one in Edison. It's a great great turnout. Sorry, I have a look, and I'll kind of go over with you guys what that entails, what the agenda looks like, and what you can expect at some of these kind of conferences. It's a good chance to network for students.
Representing the statewide plan on all legislative and regulatory issues in Trenton, priority-based hospital partnerships. Before AmeriHealth, Jill was Director of Management.
Okay. So, let's see. It's really, it's really beautiful here. Very scenic. Nice. They do a lot of weddings and things like that here. They do a lot of events, venues, that type of thing. See, that's the main hall where we were located. They have several different areas, several different locations and units for different events, maybe hosted, so of which we are only one of them. So like traditionally like weddings, think like retirement parties, etc., that type of thing. But it's really, they picked a great venue. I'm gonna probably see how the Philadelphia venue is as well when I go to that. Oh look, it's me. Hey, how you doing? So at the end of a lot of these conferences, there's a networking hour, networking half an hour, happy hour. It's your professor having a little drinky drink, meeting people, schmoozing, boozing, doing the thing, because networking is important. I'll do a whole video about that as well, about networking and why it's important. But I just wanted to throw that in at the end. So again, enjoying myself, enjoying you. Cheers to the new year. Thanks for the likes and subscriptions. I should have said that in the other video. But yes, networking. There was a lot more people here earlier. It's beautiful here, by the way. A lot more people here earlier. So that's kind of how it is. I'm going to do my review of my first HFMA conference afterwards and tell you about what I learned here. I'll be safe. Don't worry about it. This is nothing. This is just juice. This is actually just juice. This is just juice and water. Bye. Drink responsibly. So, it was a good time at a very nice place. Nice outside, Pines Manor, very beautiful. Had a great time. I'll do my review soon. Hey guys, it's Professor Presbury. Was that a seamless transition? I sure hope it was. No, I'm kidding. But all right, so here's my review, right, of the HFMA meeting, the first conference I went to, the one that was in Edison, New Jersey. It was a wonderful turnout. How can I really say that? I've never been to one, but I heard it was a wonderful turnout, so I'm just repeating what Smail said. The short answer is it was a really great time. I think it's really worthwhile for people in the health information and revenue cycle fields. I think it's important for students, for interns, for professionals, as well as for leadership. Now, I learned a lot today, and I met a lot of interesting people. The networking alone, and I'm going to do a whole separate video about the power of networking, but the networking alone was amazing. Just meeting people in a similar field to yourself, meeting like-minded individuals is very valuable. It's a very valuable thing. So I'm going to go over a little bit of what was discussed today. This is the agenda. I'll just do a quick scan over real quick. You can see it was an all-day event. So it was definitely, like I said, it was till 6. So I'm getting out. It's pretty dark outside. You can see outside, it's pretty dark. We went fast because I was enjoying myself. That's how you know that you're having a good time, when something that's from 8 to 6, which is really a traditional work day, right? 9 to 5 traditional work day, didn't seem like it took long at all. It was a really great, really engaging experience with a lot of good people. During the first round of speakers, because they had a lot of panels, right? So, and if you saw the footage earlier, you'll see there was a table up front. That table is where the speakers sat. So traditionally, maybe 3 or 4 speakers, right? And there was like maybe 3 or 4 panels throughout the day. So each panel kind of covered different things with various experts, very high level individuals in the field. We're talking VPs, AVPs, executives, senior VPs, people who have a lot of knowledge and a lot of expertise, a lot of passion about their field. We're up there speaking about various topics. Some of the things that were discussed were AI as it pertains to clinical denials, to CDI, to that sort of thing. There was a lot of speaking about social determinants of health. So SDOH, that can be anything from, let's see, race, ethnicity, religion, income level, education level, where you live, like geography, basically all those things that really factor into your health, like where you're from and who you are. Basically, you know, if you live in a food desert, that's the kind of thing that would affect your health, because you're more predisposed to getting, you know, those kind of diseases like hypertension and diabetes because of the kind of foods that you have access to. They touched on that a lot, which I think is really important for anybody and everybody. It's important to understand, especially when you're trying to serve your community from a healthcare standpoint. One of the big talking points of healthcare, really of any industry, has been AI. The role of artificial intelligence in our industries, in healthcare, and how it is going to affect us in the future. And I'm glad to say that a lot of the conversation was not about displacing employees, but was about freeing up employees to handle more complicated tasks. There was a lot of conversation around AI taking on a lot of menial tasks, allowing the staff members of each of these organizations to be retrained and cross-trained, so that not only are they more valuable employees, but they're more valuable professionals, so that the skills that they're learning, they can take elsewhere, so that they can be, you know, highly marketable. I think that's really great, because that's one of the questions I asked, and if I'm able to get it to work, I want to actually include the sound bite of me discussing those same things, and that same question that I posed, putting it into this YouTube video so you guys can hear the question and hear the actual response from those healthcare leaders. There was a lot of talk about AR, obviously accounts receivable. If you're in revenue cycle, or even if you're in health information at a higher level, you will know what accounts receivable is. If you want me to do a whole video on that, I'll do that as well. Accounts receivable is basically any case in which you have money that's going to be coming into the hospital. It is an account that is in receivable status. Basically, if the patient went through their entire stay, their entire clinical pathway at your organization and was discharged, the insurance company was billed for the services that were rendered, and now your facility, now your organization is waiting to receive the payment. That's AR. There was a lot of discussions about lowering AR turnaround time, basically getting your money faster. There was a lot of discussion about negotiations with payers. Payers are the insurance companies. You're talking about your Aetnas, your Cigna Healthcare, your, you know, Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Any health insurance that you have is a payer, and the individuals that are enrolled in that healthcare plan are the clients, or they're the consumers, or they're the customer base for those payers. So basically, at those higher levels, they have to negotiate contracts with these payers so that they can accept them into their network and provide services and be covered, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They talked a lot about that. They also talked about sometimes if they're not able to reach an agreement up front sometimes, and they can kind of write a check at the end for basically you're kind of settling with the payer. So just some really high level stuff that I learned today that I'm kind of passing on to you guys. And again, I can break it down into a much more involved video at another time. One of the leaders said something that I think is really great. He said API, assume positive intent. And I think that's great because a lot of people in the revenue cycle chain, in the revenue cycle field, look at the payers as the bad guy. I know they referenced it earlier as the dark side, and they're not. The truth is that on either side of the table, on your side as the provider, on their side as the payer, it's just people. It's just people doing a job and trying to provide a service for the client base, which is the customer, which is the patient. So, it's really about bridging that gap. And he said, API, assume positive intent. So really go into any situation, any negotiation, any interaction with a payer, assuming that they're not, just trying to screw you. Because a lot of people can say the payer just trying to make it difficult for us. They're trying to give us a hard time, when that really may not be the case. Always try to reach out and understand that there is a person on the other side of the aisle, so you can kind of bridge that gap, have a good vendor and a good payer relationship with them. So I want to wrap it up because this video is probably going to get a little bit long. It may be a little bit over 10 minutes with all the footage that's everything in. Do I want to say this? Do I think going to these kind of meetings is worth it? Absolutely. There's no disclaimer there. There's no trick. I think it is worth it. I think it's worth it. And I'm going to go at each level, right? So I think it's worth it if you're an intern, if you're a student, because you're going to learn a lot about the higher level of what goes on in healthcare and the revenue cycle side, right? In the administrative side. You're going to learn about insurance. You're going to learn, and you may, at that student level, at that intern level, pique your own interest because you may be undecided about where you want to go, with your career, what side you want to end up on, or where you ultimately may want to fall. But not only are you going to meet people there that could help you get where you want to be, but you're going to kind of see and really learn some of the challenges and learn what people deal with who do this every day and have been doing it for 20, 30 years. And that could be really helpful for you to decide, like what do I want to do? You know what I mean? From the professional side, right? So a non-leader professional. I think it's also good because, again, you get to network. You're going to meet people that have opportunities. Somebody may say, hey, you know what? I have a position opening up in my area. You know what? Give me a call, send me an email, because you're really putting a face to the person. In this day and age, everything is done by email. Everything is done by Teams. Everything is done by Zoom. But really meeting people face to face allows you to build that connection. You're just sitting around, having a good time, getting to know people, telling jokes. It's a social event as much as it's an educational event. And the truth is, and I said this before in my other videos, right? When you're applying for a job, you don't know who you're up against. You really don't. You may think that you're the best candidate, but you just don't know. Networking may be the thing that puts you over the top from that other person that you don't even know that you're competing with. It may be the thing that puts you in that position that you want. Get out there, put a face to your name, put a face to your work ethic. And that's really what networking is. Now to wrap it up, for the leadership side, yes, I also think it's valuable from a leadership perspective because you're meeting with other like-minded leaders. You're learning from what some of their challenges are, how they navigate them. You're learning how they're advancing their careers. They're learning about you. They're learning who you are, where you're from, and what you're about. That may have them looking, oh, okay, you know what? He might be somebody to keep my eye on. This person might be a factor for the future. This person may be the future of healthcare. This person may be the future of revenue cycle. You know what I mean? If you come across as interesting, intelligent, smart, engaging, somebody who really knows what they're talking about, somebody who can command the presence of a room, somebody who can command respect with your knowledge of your field, you're going to set yourself that much further. So yes, even for leaders, I would say, because a lot of it is networking, man. That's how it's done. It's getting to know people. It's them keeping you in mind for the future. I tell my students, I'm telling you, if you're a viewer, and you are because you're watching this, I tell people all the time, you never know who you're going to work with. It's a small field. Do your best in every job. Never close a door the wrong way, and network. Get out there, because your work ethic and everything will follow you. Your nature will follow you. This is 12 minutes right now. This is just the segment I'm doing, and I guess I'm gonna cut it out some, but it's getting a little long. So I want to say, do I think it's worth it? Absolutely. I'm gonna do my review for the next meeting as well, so to kind of give you guys a little bit of an inside look into what these kind of meetings are like, these kind of conferences are like. I advise you, if you're in the field, I would definitely join. It's really great. It was a really great turnout. I had a good time. I'm not even lying. I had a good time. So I look forward to the next event, and I'll do a video on that. And again, this is Professor Presbury. Have a good one. I appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Any question in the back?
There you go. Look at that service. Look at that service. It came fast. Yeah, I'm new here as well, but my question is, with AI being such a big part of healthcare and really all industries going forward, I like that a lot of the conversation is about utilizing staff in other areas instead of displacing them. Because I think a well-rounded, cross-trained staff member is not only a resource to the organization, but a resource for themselves, because that's a skill they can take, for the rest of their career elsewhere. Have any of you gotten pushback from your employees when you're trying to cross-train them and kind of give them a new skill set, and how did you kind of mitigate that and get around that?
Every time. Every time you get pushback. We at Jefferson, we had a pretty long average tenure for our employees in there. So the teaching old dogs new tricks rule applied a lot to us. And first thing is be persistent, right? And you have to continue to work with them. Some people may need more time than others to adapt to that new way of doing things, or the new skill that you're trying to teach them. But you have to stay with them, you have to follow up, and you have to manage that educational period very, very closely, right? You have to have check-ins with them regularly. What are you getting? What are you not getting? Bring me your questions in writing. Let me answer them. And then, one tool we'll look at is, are they really trying to learn, or are they just being hard-headed? And with the questions in writing, we find that that's a quick way to find that, because what you'll see is they'll keep asking the same question 2 and 3 times, and you're like, well, I answered that on week 1. Why aren't you referring to your notes? Now you're just trying to be, you're not really putting the effort into it. So sometimes it's that. It's a whole culture thing, like I talked about before, right? You have to show them the benefits of what you're trying to do. You can't just tell them, hey, this is going to make you better. Show them, how is it going to make them better? What can they do with the new skills? If they don't see that, they're never going to buy in.
You have to show how it adds value to the organization and to themselves, having that knowledge that they buy in.
And for us, and Jason, here you both hit on is get the people, let them know the why and how you're safe. You're theoretically safe employee. Well, I know he's totally safe, not even anybody at the panel, but take the fear of, am I going to lose my job, out of the mix. I remember when we put this big, almost like ATM-sized kiosks in some of our practices, and didn't do a good job of educating the whys and the wherefores for our staff, and how it's going to make it easier if you work on, more complex things. Pretty much when you walked into the orthopedics practice, if you went to the reception desk, you got a grunt and a snort and a point. Hey, go check in there, but they still had to come back to the desk to pay their $20 bill. So, a lot of it's just educating them on the why and the how, and how this is going to make your life easier, not just say, hey, guess what? This is being done by a bot, or this is being done by this, so now you're going to do this, and take it and like it kind of thing. That's just not going to work and build a good base of employees.
Yeah, and I think the other piece too is, depending on where that person is in their career, if they're early on getting, exposure to multiple areas within the health system only makes you more valuable. Whether you stay within our health system, move to another one, move out of state. I think you open up a lot of career opportunities by learning multiple functions and becoming more nimble, in your, search for where do you want to fit ultimately within, your leadership role within an organization or another organization. And to me, it's also training. The training aspect of it can't be overlooked. And, the usage of the system. We've had individuals, I mentioned the PI team, we had one individual, she went to a department on site overseeing, an imaging department and working through that. What she was able to bring based on her process improvement knowledge, based on her, I'll say the back end of the rev cycle, in the business office, to that role, I think exponentially moved that department forward. And then another role came up years later or whatever, and she moved back into another space. So I think when you look at future leaders across the organizations, you have an idea of people who are your A performers, getting them, cross-trained so that next management opportunity, whether it's within where they are currently or another area, that you can elevate them. People love that. I mean, promoting from within, I think we all know, is the best way to keep and maintain employee engagement. Beyond compensation, beyond, can't hear or other things that.
Look at me when you said can't.
But I do think there's opportunity there that they may not realize it at that time, but really is helping them to give their healthcare background a more well-rounded, more broad exposure.
Thank you.
And I think, one of the phrases we use, there's a seat for every rear end at 10. I'm going to say the other word, but I can't use that here again. But, it's just a matter of finding the best. The best game. That was freaky enough. From that perspective, I think that's a big thing. As well as, for me, like being more the central back office billing, I wave it as a banner of success when one of our departments steals one of my folks to go to Jeff's point. The fact that we're training our people and they're good enough to go to the front end and manage people or help improve process or whatever. So while, earlier on in my career, I'd be like, oh my God, they're stealing, can't have these people stealing. It's like, wow, we're getting that knowledge out to the front end. It's painful for us, but I'd rather have it that way than have to bring somebody in that's totally green, doesn't know what they're doing, and then trying to tell us, how we should do things. So that's, kind of.
Yeah, I think getting perspective from a system standpoint, whether you're in a system role or a hospital role, going back and forth in between that only gives you, I think, credibility to the team that you're working with and to the people that are either reporting to you or you're reporting to.
Thank you. Intelligence is not enough. Intelligence plus character. That is the true goal of education.